When you first start learning how to ride a bike, you can get pretty frustrated easily. You're trying to balance, you're trying to pedal, you're trying to steer. There's seemingly so much to manage. But with time and practice, you adjust to it, and then you ride without even thinking about it, right? Well, the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator is similar. At first, it seems a little frustrating because this tool behaves differently than anything that you've ever handled before. But once you start learning how it functions, you're going to find that the pen tool is a fierce tool to have. It allows you to draw any shape that you want. You can fill it in, you can give it an outline or a stroke. It really is a great tool for creating graphics and logos. So I'm going to teach you how to use this incredible tool. Now, before I do, I want to remind you guys of a great philosophy that one of my own teachers gave to me, and that is never let technology dictate your design. Your mind can create incredible things. And if you find it difficult to recreate because of the technology, I don't want you to give up. Never substitute. Master the technology. Don't let the technology master you. So that has been a philosophy that has really helped me in learning design. So for instance, if I had a funky shape in mind and found it kind of difficult to draw, I don't just get frustrated and decide to just use a square instead. No, it's my design. It deserves to be created. So just remember that technology is only a tool that we wield however we want. And that it should yield to my will and I should never yield to it. So be sure that if you're struggling, ask somebody with more experience, check out Google, there's lots of tutorials out there in the world, and explore and try new things with the software. Your computer's not going to blow up or anything if you try a couple buttons that you've never tried before. So don't be shy with your technology, but also don't let it dictate what your designs are going to be. Find a way to make it work, okay? All right, so enough lecture. Let's get drawn, okay? So the pen tool is located over on the left-hand side of our screen, and it is about the third down from the top of our toolbar. You will notice that if you hold your mouse, there's a hidden panel. So the pen tool is based on anchor points, which look like those little grips that you've seen in the line and the curve arc commands. You can add anchor points, you can delete anchor points, but everything is based on the anchor points. So to best demonstrate this, let's just start using the pen tool. So I'm going to grab it here, and I start by clicking, and you'll see that a line appears attached to the cursor, and it just wants you to select the second point. So I'm just clicking and letting go. And what that does is it gives me straight edges. Now, the idea behind the pen tool is that you create closed shapes. So you always want to click back on the point that you started. And before you actually click on that point, do you see that little circle right next to the cursor? That indicates that you're about to close this shape. If you don't see it, it means you're going to leave a small gap. And how do we feel about gaps in design? We don't like gaps. So make sure that you get that circle and close your shape. Now I started drawing with color, and you can definitely use the black selection arrow to re-highlight this, and then you can give it a different color, you can give it a gradient, you can even give it a pattern. Ooh la la. So again, just to demonstrate that one more time, pen tool, click, 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 and back to the original point. Make sure you have that circle and click. Now this is showing you the straight line version of the pen tool, which is great. It can do a lot of things, but what happens if I want to do some organic lines? So it's very similar. I'm going to click, and I'm going to click and hold this time. So my finger is depressed on the mouse button, and I'm moving my mouse, and that's how you can get organic shapes out of the pen tool. Okay, so it does do funky things. You see the arm, and depending on where the knob of that arm is going to be how the arc follows. So watch where that little ball on the end of the arm is, because that's where the peak is going to go, or kind of follow, if that makes sense. Now when I let go, it still wants to continue drawing, but it wants to continue drawing an arc in its own way. And you may or may not want it to do that. If you do want it to do that, just simply click again, and what you'll see happens is the second time it goes into straight mode. Now what happens if I'm doing a curve and I want to do a curve again, but it's not really giving me the curve that I want? I got into the habit of every time that I drew a curve, I just clicked on that last anchor point that I clicked, and it resets. So it goes right back to straight mode. So now if I want to curve, it will go in the direction that I want it to. So again, click back on that last anchor point, curve, last anchor point, click, curve. There we go. So see how that works? Now I have been doing this for a long time. You guys are probably a little slower, and it's a little harder to understand how the arcs in this pen tool work, and that's okay because we all started in the exact same place. Now I want to point out what just happened here is that I thought I was clicking back on that anchor point, and I actually clicked next to that anchor point. So I'm going to do Control Z and go back and make sure that you're clicking on that anchor point and not like right next to it, because funky things happen when you click right next to it. So see that little caret symbol right next to it? That means I'm going to click right on that anchor point. And now I can come back here. I can close the shape with a little curve if I wanted to. And I use the black selection arrow to click off. Let's try this again. Let's do a free-handed leaf. Let's do a very basic, simple leaf. And I'm going to change it to green just so that we can see that it's a leaf. So I'm coming in here. And like I said, I've got some practice. I've got some years on you guys for creating this kind of thing. So don't feel frustrated if you can't get this shape. One of the things that I've learned about using the pen tool is a lot of people try to do little mini arcs. And you know, the goal, I think, to make your pen tool shapes look as seamless as possible is to use as big of arcs as you can. You start to learn how arcs are put together so that you can get a flawless shape out of it. So from here to here, some people think that you need to put lots of anchors all over, but try to do a full arch, and as soon as that arch starts to turn or become different, that's how you know where to place your anchor points. Like this one's a nice big curve, right? But this one consists of two arches next to each other. So it's learning how arches can play into each other. Now sometimes it happens that you're doing this and it either bubbles or you get it to like a really sharp point, kind of like what I just demonstrated right here. So see how there's like a little bubble, like you can tell that something happened here. Use your white arrow to select it. Make sure you click on the anchor point that you're trying to work with, and then you can use these little arms to help smooth out the shape a little bit more. Again, it takes practice, lots and lots of practice, understanding how to smooth arcs together. So maybe even this one gets adjusted a little bit so that you can get a smooth, rounded edge. Things like this are a little tougher because it's creating a point. So you either have to bring it back or you make your curves play into each other a little bit more. So see how I took that point and smoothed it out? I think one of the most important things I can teach you guys about any design that you do in a software is that there are some commands that it's better to get the gist of what you're doing down and then go back and adjust it. It's okay to do that. If you're trying to make it perfect the first time you draw it, you're going to get frustrated pretty quickly. So try your best to get it in the best position possible, but if you need to go back and adjust it, then adjust it. It will alleviate a lot of frustration, tears, and anger on your part if you kind of adapt to that philosophy. Draw first, then adjust. Okay, so moving forward, I'm going to go ahead and delete these two things. What happens if I want to trace something? Tracing is a really great way to get your ideas out on paper in a way that is legit. I don't necessarily want you to copy mascots or other people's photography or things like that, but there are royalty-free photos out there. You can take your own photographs as well, and you can work with somebody else's imagery in a way that you can still claim as your own. So I'm going to put a picture in here. So how I do that is I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Place, and I found this leaf, and I'm going to place it right here. And it's a little small, so I am going to make it bigger. And I'm going to hold the Shift as I'm making it bigger to help keep it in proportion. So maybe I want the shape of this leaf to be part of my logo. Once I have that in place, what I like to do is I come over to the layers, and right next to the eyeball I click in that blank area and it becomes a lock. So now I can't accidentally move it while I'm tracing it with the pen tool. I can just leave it there and I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to click on the pen tool, and I'm going to do Control plus to zoom in. It does get a little pixelated because the picture is a pixelated picture. But that's okay because I can still see the gist of what I'm drawing here, right? So to trace this, I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm looking to see where the arcs are. So I see that there's a nice arc right here, and it kind of starts changing maybe as I get closer to over here. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the anchor there, and I'm holding, and I'm drawing. I'm trying to get my mouse to kind of follow the contour of that leaf. Something about like that, right? So I see another arc that I can do, which actually comes to about right here in the middle. The next arc is an inverted arc, and it goes to about the middle on this side. So again, it's training your eye to see where the arcs are in shapes. It's kind of a cool little puzzle, brain teaser kind of thing. Arcs tend to go more in the middle, but maybe more towards one arc or the other. That's something that I have learned. Control minus to zoom out just a little bit so I can see. I think it's about right here. So notice I'm not getting all the details. I don't need to get all the details. And I might come back and readjust that because it looks a little sharp right there, but that's okay. Draw first and then adjust, right? So the arc maybe comes right about here if I wanted to. Now I could have the philosophy that maybe that's a point that I want to have. So points are easy because they're just right at the end, right? Yeah, that works. I might need to adjust that later, but that's okay. I can do that. Nice curve. So see how this is working? Now I'm going to kind of speed up the process so that you can understand like how fast you can actually go with this. Oops. See, I'm not hitting that anchor point. There we go. That as you get more practice and understanding of how all this works. Oh, see, I don't think I got the right angle on that one, so let's try that one again. There we go. So I can keep going. Now, could I have done straight lines? Sure, maybe I wanted a more geometric leaf. I don't know. But the basic thing I'm trying to get across, I guess, is you don't have to be a drawing expert. You can trace. Be careful of what you trace. I don't want you to get in the middle of a lawsuit or anything like that. Zoom in and out as you need to. And sometimes this fill can get in the way, so if it ever gets in the way, you can actually stop drawing, grab the shape, and come over here and say no fill. You can even change the color depending on what you're tracing, because if I was tracing something black, this would be a little hard to see. So you can definitely change that as well. And then all you have to do is come back to the pen tool and click on that anchor that you had before. Let me see if I got it. Yep, I did. But I also lost the color, or the no fill I should say. Let's change that back. And you can just keep drawing. Again, it's up to you how the final looks, how much detail that you want to put into it. I just want a basic shape, but I also want some detail to it. La 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 la. La 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 la. Sometimes you have to sing while you're drawing to pass the time. I didn't realize that this leaf would take so long, but that's okay, because it's showing you how easy this tool can be when you get the practice with it. I am so well trained on where to find those arches and how they come together. You aren't necessarily at that point yet, and if you aren't at that point, be kind to yourself and learn it. It's okay. And remember that you can always come back and adjust anything that you feel like you want to. Like this area looks a little weird. Yeah, that works. Alright, so if I want to see what this looks like, I can hide my picture and then I can just see the silhouette of the shape. I can see it in green. I can even see what it would look like with a little bit of a gradation or a pattern if you want to, right? I mean, the sky's the limit. Patterns are pretty easy to make. I'll do that in a future video for you so that you can see how to do a pattern. But yeah, this is how to use the pen tool and how to trace with it. Of course, make sure that you have your shape highlighted before you change the color. But yep, that's how you can do it. Now, just to kind of show you what these other things in the pen tool were all about, there's add an anchor point. So again, if I have that, it's got a plus sign on my cursor, and I can decide to add an anchor point here or anywhere that I want. It just has to be on the outline of the shape. Or if I wanted to delete that one, I can come back with the minus sign on my cursor and click on that anchor point and it deletes. And I can readjust using the white arrow. And I still have my shape and I can do a lot of different things with it. So that's the pen tool, guys. Not too terrible, just need some practice, okay? So go, practice, do amazing things, and never let the software tell you what it wants to do. You tell it what to do.